And it's interesting that they turn off the comments under these videos.
Man, I can't believe I'm making another video about this outrage merchant. That's my new name for these shills. I've been observing them, analyzing them, studying every little detail about them, and I realize one thing that they do is that they try to get people outraged. They use misleading information, kind of deceptive information, information that's like sort of half true but mostly fake, to get people outraged. And then, they want to get people outraged because that's sort of what the club is trying to do right now. They're trying to get people angry so that they do things without thinking. So anyway, I haven't done a video on this outrage merchant in quite a while. So before I start this video, I just want to discuss some things that I've been observing that he's been doing. So one thing that I noticed he's been doing with his main channel is he started to do what this channel, I believe the channel is called Jason A. And that's like a major shill account that YouTube has been pushing pretty much since the beginning. And Jason A, all they do is they show videos that are supposed to get people anxious, or supposed to get people outraged, or supposed to fill them with emotion. Those videos, they have absolutely zero wisdom to them. They provide absolutely no solutions, and they really leave people worse off. So High Impact Flicks has been doing a very similar thing lately on his main channel, High Impact Flicks. Actually, I don't know why I called him High Impact Flicks. His name is Brian, or at least that's what he claims his name is. So this guy Brian, on his main channel, High Impact Flicks, he started to basically just put out viral videos, videos that are just clips of a bunch of other videos. And, they're perfect videos because then somebody like me can't call him out for lying. He just puts out those videos, people watch them, it's pretty much like news headlines. These videos, they have no substance. It's like a person reading a news headline and thinking that they have the entire story. But anyway, let me stop talking about that and start talking about why I'm making this video. So I'm making this video because Brian put out this video right here on his Grease Monkey Videos channel. This is not his main channel, High Impact Flicks. This is one of his other channels, Grease Monkey Videos. He has this channel, and then he also has Here's the Deal. And of course, shill content on all of it, okay? So in this video, as you can see, it's titled, WTF, Wake Up America, Are They Doing This in Your Neighborhood Too? And then he has the mosquito sprayers. So he puts out this video, and then he makes it like this mosquito spraying is something new. Here is what he says at the start of the video.
Of people saying, oh, that'll never happen here in America.
So right at the start of the video, actually, let me not get to that. So right at the start of the video, he makes it as if this is something new. Because he's like, oh yeah, people are saying that will never happen in America. And what he's actually talking about at the start of the video is the China disinfectant patrols. So China has these disinfectant vehicles going around and spraying the shit out of the area. And China has been doing this for a couple of years now. So he starts the video talking about that, but then he leans into the mosquito spraying. And he's like, yeah, this is the same thing as them spraying the disinfectants. He tries to equate the spraying of disinfectants with the spraying of mosquitoes, which is a fair comparison. However, when I clicked on this video, the first comment that I saw, the top comment, was this comment right here. They have been doing this for ever. Not saying this is a good thing. Back in the 50s, my father would go all over the tractor spraying for mosquitoes. The fact that my older brother got cancer at 16 and died at 29 must just be a coincidence. Right? Look how this comment is just retarded. So check this out, right? Oh, and my grandmother, who lived across the driveway, died of liver cancer. And her husband had colon cancer when he died of a heart attack. And my sister had a rare cancer of the jaw and mouth. Just a coincidence. I am fine at 73, though, so far. We lived on a tobacco farm. What a fucking jackass. You might have wanted to start your comment with that. We lived on a tobacco farm, where spraying the crops was a regular thing. The plane would come and everyone would have to scurry like mad to get out of the field. Fun times. So of course this comment is retarded. I know that. I mean, the first thing I thought about is like, once again, why didn't you start your comment with the tobacco farm? The second thing I thought about is, why are they running like mad out of the field? Why doesn't the person who's spraying the field do it on a schedule? And why don't these field workers know that schedule so that they don't have to be in the field when this spraying is occurring? I mean, to me, this comment is really goofy. However, it does point out an important fact, which is that they have been doing this spraying forever. They have been doing it for a very long time. So anyway, I decided to comment. I decided to reply to this comment. And I say, Brian is an outrage merchant and a disinformation shill whose job is to make those in the truth community look stupid and or crazy. Not very different than Alex Jones. Part of what he does is not provide facts like what you have provided here, or I should have said what you provided above. I live in New York City, and they did it a lot in my neighborhood when I was a kid around 1999 or 2000. So anyway, I kind of just left it there. I was like, all right, whatever. I ended up going to bed, going to sleep. And then I got a notification. For some reason, I got a notification for one of these replies that are here. So I decided to come and see if they were replying to me. And I was like, okay, so I checked out the comments. And I was like, wow, nobody's interacted with my comment. Not a thumbs down, not a thumbs up. I kind of thought that was a little weird. So I was like, oh, you know what? I know exactly what happened here. I was like, you know what? I bet you Brian, I bet you what he did is I bet you he shadow banned me. So what I did is I logged into another account, my Your Pal the Devil account, and I went to go check out the video. And look at that, my comment wasn't there. Right now, my Your Pal the Devil comment is there, because I just basically copied and pasted the other comment and put it here. But my comment from my harmful content channel is gone. Brian has blocked me. And as you see, I'm going to go ahead, I'll switch accounts, I'll log into harmful content, and you will see, this is the notification I got. My comment is there, I can see it when I'm logged into harmful content, but when I'm logged into Your Pal the Devil, it's not there. So Brian now practices censorship. Now, of course, I'm not only going to be covering that in the video. Let me actually break down some of what Brian does in this video. So the first thing that I have to put out, of course, is that Brian has the nerve to say this in the video too.
News report, and it's interesting that they turn off the comments under these videos. This is from KHOU News Channel 11.
Okay, wait a second. First of all, the comments actually aren't turned off here. You see here? So he's like, oh yeah, it's interesting that they turned off the comments, but you can make a comment here. So this is hilarious. So he's like, oh yeah, they turned off the comments, but look, you can see he actually has the ability to make a comment here. But what's interesting is that, he's talking about them turning off the comments here, but yet he censors comments himself. So the guy is just a hypocrite. He's not just a hypocrite, he's a shill. I mean, I don't understand how people don't see it yet. This guy is a con man. He's a confidence man. And I'm going to prove that further right now by looking at what he says in the video.
That they turn off the comments under these videos. This is from KHOU News Channel 11, Missouri City. Listen to this.
Just in
Okay, we can skip that. Let's look at this.
But to apply a broad brush government solution to a problem that most likely, if you look deep enough, if you strip away enough layers, it's a problem they probably caused in the first place. The reason that we have all this stuff.
Okay, so maybe you guys didn't get that, but essentially if you go and watch his video, and you can see I'm not taking this out of context at all, what he's saying here, he's trying to blame the mosquitoes existing on the government. Here, I'm gonna play that again, okay? So what ends up happening here at the very start of the clip, the news that he's watching, they offer some ways to control mosquitoes, and they're like, don't leave standing water, and they provide, natural ways for preventing mosquitoes. And then Brian says the following.
But to apply a broad brush government solution to a problem that most likely, if you look deep enough, if you strip away enough layers, it's a problem they probably caused in the first place. The reason that we have all this stuff.
So the broad brush government solution that he's talking about is the spraying of mosquitoes. And he's all like, oh yeah, if we look deep enough, we'll see that the government is the one responsible for all this stuff in the first place. almost like equating the existence of mosquitoes with the government. And then, of course, what he says after that, and I don't want to leave this part out, after this, he claims that Bill Gates released mechanical mosquitoes to gobble up the organic or natural mosquitoes. Now, of course, Bill Gates didn't release mechanical mosquitoes, but he did release genetically modified mosquitoes. But for some reason, Brian refers to them as mechanical mosquitoes, and for some reason, he claims that these mechanical mosquitoes gobbled up, he literally uses that word, gobbled up the other mosquitoes, which is not at all what happened whatsoever. I mean, there were genetically modified mosquitoes released, and these genetically modified mosquitoes, they were supposed to reduce the natural mosquito population by essentially, I think it was like breeding with them, and then when they bred with them, they actually wouldn't produce, or something like that. I don't understand the full scope of it. Of course, it doesn't seem right at all, but the way that Brian describes it is completely wrong.
And then you got people like Gil Bates who come along and go, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna launch all these mechanical mosquitoes into the air so that they can gobble up all the mosquitoes that are laying the eggs. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong when you put Gil Bates' hand on the lever of power?
So there you go. He says that. Now, of course, he doesn't actually look into the information. He's just like, oh, look, Bill Gates was behind it, so it must be evil. And of course, maybe it is, but I'm not going to get into that. What I want to get into is this very next thing that he says, because it describes perfectly what Brian does and what other shills like him do.
Tomorrow morning, crews will be spraying in Hialeah, Indian Creek, North Miami.
Let's say this is a park right here they're spraying in, which probably is. What if it's a public park? And then the next day you take your kids to that public park and your dog's rolling around in it, your kids are rolling around in it, you're playing in the grass, you're throwing the frisbee or whatever. You get this stuff on your bare feet, you get this stuff on your exposed skin. Well, what happens? What are the repercussions? What if you get sick 2 weeks later and then you forget that you were at the park? You don't even link the two, the fact that you're sick right now and that there was something that was sprayed in the grass by the city who are out there just to protect you.
Alrighty, so what Brian never does in this video, and by the way, I just have to comment, I would never buy a Nike shirt. And if somebody bought me a Nike shirt as a gift, I would throw it out right in front of their face. And I'd be like, why are you supporting this company? That's what I would tell them. Like, don't buy me a Nike shirt, alright? So I don't know why Brian is sporting a Nike shirt here. I mean, maybe he doesn't have the same principles that I do, but whatever. Now, the important thing that I want to discuss here is that this entire video, Brian has this whole video of him being outraged by them spraying for mosquitoes, and he talks about this mosquito spray. He only refers to it as a toxin. He's like, oh yeah, they're spraying these toxins everywhere. Not once does he actually look up what they're spraying. The pesticide used is called Anvil 10+10, a product extensively tested and used in both ground level and aerial spraying in the United States to control mosquitoes. Anvil 10+10 contains two ingredients, sumithrin and piperonal butoxide. Now, when you look those things up, you find the following. Piperonal butoxide is low in toxicity to humans, but is often combined with other pesticides like pyrethrins or pyrethroids. PPO is practically non-toxic to birds, mammals, and bees. And it really is. This thing is practically non-toxic to most life forms. However, if you do ingest a ton of it, effects include lower appetite, unsteady balance, watery eyes, irritable behavior, coma, and death. Human volunteers were given a small dose of PPO to test effects on the liver. The PPO did not weaken their livers. See NPIC fact sheets for signs and symptoms of exposure to other pesticides that may be mixed with PPO. So PPO, do I have it here? Shit, I don't have it here. I forgot to include that information. So PPO actually isn't a pesticide. It's actually something that serves to strengthen other pesticides. And that's why it says to see these fact sheets for signs and symptoms of exposure to other pesticides that may be mixed with PPO. I don't know why they say other pesticides. Because once again, PPO is not necessarily a pesticide. And they mix this with phenolphthalein, or also called sumithrin, and diphenolphthalein, which is a synthetic pyrethroid that kills adult fleas and ticks. And this has also been used to kill head lice in humans. And diphenolphthalein is used as a component of aerosol insecticides for domestic use. Now, this thing is so non-toxic to humans and to mammals in general that they use it to kill head lice and to kill fleas and ticks. Like, I know people who kind of put this in like a water solution. They kind of mix it with other stuff to dilute it a little bit, and I've seen them spray their dogs with this. Of course, not crazy spraying them with it, but they'd rather use this than the other things that people use to prevent fleas on their dogs. Now, I will admit that this is here's just some information saying that this is it's used because it's non-toxic. At least it's non-toxic to human beings. Now, I will admit though that sumithrin is highly toxic to bees, fish, and amphibians, and it should not be sprayed in waterways. However, sumithrin does decompose to non-toxic breakdown products within a few hours in the air and less than a day on the surface of plants. Now, of course, this probably depends on how concentrated it is. This is a concern, the fact that it's toxic to bees, especially when we have a whole bunch of bees dying. So it would be interesting, not jumping to conclusions, but it would be interesting to see where you had mass bee die-offs and see if those areas were recently sprayed with this sort of stuff. That would be an interesting thing to do, but jumping to conclusions isn't going to help. Jumping to conclusions and acting hysterical about it and basically lying, which is what High Impact Flicks is doing, or what Brian is doing, when he says things like, oh yeah, they're going to spray it one night, and then the next day, you're going to go to the grass and be there with yourself and your dog, and then you end up getting really sick. Very unlikely, because once again, these compounds are not that toxic to human beings. And also, what's interesting is that, as far as I'm aware, when they do spray these things, they do spray for mosquitoes, when they spray for them at nighttime, there are safety precautions taken still. They tell people what hours they're going to be spraying, what neighborhoods they're going to be spraying, and it's not like they just drive down the street speeding and spraying these things. They drive down very slow, and they give people time to go indoors. If there are still people outdoors, and they see this spraying occurring, they give them time to go indoors. And like I said in my comment, they sprayed this stuff when I was a kid, at least in a part of New York City that I lived in. I don't really see it in the part that I'm currently living at, and it's probably because I live closer to a waterway. So they probably are taking precautions to ensure that this stuff isn't getting sprayed right by waterways. No, I will say that Brian, he points out some other things in the video, like he makes other interesting points. Like one thing that Brian points out in his video is he talks about the increase in mosquito populations in certain areas. And, he makes a good point about, who benefits, who's making money off of these operations. And he makes some other points, but they're so, generalized and so superficial that they're basically schizophrenic thoughts. They're just incomplete schizophrenic thoughts that are not really grounded in any sort of reality. They're just grounded in possibilities. He doesn't do any research, no studies conducted, he doesn't talk to any people who have actually had experience with this sort of stuff. Nothing like that. Just pure mindless outrage from an outrage merchant.